Welcome, everyone. This interview is part of a larger effort to explore instances where the systems and organizations that are put in place to help families who are experiencing abuse actually end up causing more harm than good. I believe it's so important to investigate this issue and one by one shed light on stories as we find them of families and children being harmed by the organizations that are supposed to support them so that we can fix the problems that exist and that no other families are harmed due to the failings of police, social workers, domestic violence advocacy groups, and others. And the first of these stories that I want to share today involves Snetha Badhan. She is a certified counselor and public speaker. She works with women and men in support groups who are recovering from abuse. She's also a model, and she is mother of two children, one adult son, and her other son, 11 years old, I believe. He has complex special needs. She lives in Bedfordshire in the UK, and I have seen firsthand some of the evidence in her case, and I believe it's an important story to share. Now, I will mention the BBC recently put out a fantastic little documentary piece focused on the same area where Snetha lives with her son in Bedfordshire, and where they investigated children's homes in the UK that are unregulated and not registered, nor are they subject to inspections. And this plays a part in Snetha's story, but more on that later. So Snetha, let's just jump right in. Why don't we get started by you first telling me about your children, and in particular, your son with complex special needs?
Thank you very much, Anne. Yes, so I have two children, and my youngest, yes, as you said, is 11 years old. Um, he was diagnosed from birth with a rare brain damage called microcephaly, and he also has a kidney condition, complex needs, and he's still non-verbal. Um, the pregnancy itself was very, very hard on myself and my children. We nearly lost him through the pregnancy many times, and it it was something, we didn't know what to expect, basically. Um, but he survived, and we had him, our miracle baby. Um, but since then, obviously, life has been quite different. He has got challenging behaviour. He's still got a lot of difficulties in how to manage himself, and especially being non-verbal, and he's extremely developmentally delayed as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty hard with what we're challenged with. However, we do keep trying to support him the best way we
Okay. Now, after he was born, you found yourself in an abusive relationship. Is that correct?
Well, the relationship began just before that, a few years before. Yes, I was in an abusive relationship. Um, well, I could highlight it in certain ways, I guess. But it was a controlling, coercive relationship. It was full of, what can I say, layers of racism as well. Um, because this particular person is actually from Eastern Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and he came here legally. And unfortunately, me and my older son, I was a single parent with my older son, were picked to be abused and for him to get his immigration needs met. So then he forced me into marriage as well. And the abuse continued on until he was in a position to discard us. And he used my little boy in particular as a way to keep us trapped with him. There was
Okay.
also sexual abuse as well on top of everything that went on.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a very hard time. Yeah.
Did you turn to the police for help about the abuse?
Yes, I did. It, it was like that situation with many survivors that I didn't even know I was experiencing
Mhm.
that particular form of abuse. I didn't know what controlling coercive behaviour was. I soon learned about narcissistic abuse, and I saw it all. I didn't even know forced marriage was against the law. I didn't know the extent of abuse we were going through. So yes, I approached Bedford Police, but we had a very different experience once they got involved.
Mm. Can you share some specifics of what you experienced with the Bedford police?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that was quite clear was that um, they wouldn't accept the fact that there were failings on their part. That while he was here illegally, he was involved with the police on two separate occasions, and they didn't check his immigration background, and he was completely illegal here. I highlighted the fact that being Asian myself and from an immigrant background, I just highlighted the fact that, is it because he's white that they weren't looking at white immigrants the same way they look at immigrants from the BAM community, Black, Asian, mixed or ethnic type. Um, Obviously, they weren't happy with me saying such things. And then they looked in further with his immigration history, and they ended up getting the wrong information. And I begged them to look into the correct information, and they refused to do this. The other things they did was that they wouldn't regard the abuse as a forced marriage because it didn't fit the typical stereotypical situation of a forced marriage, which is usually with Asian people. So because he's white, that they didn't see that as a forced marriage. Um, and yeah, it was just endless things. They were just literally throwing at me to go against what I was saying, accusing me of lying and saying that I'm fabricating everything. And they even threatened me with a lie detector test. So this was literally what was going on with the police, and they were continuously traumatizing me. And I did take it to complaints, but it didn't get us anywhere. It literally didn't. So yeah, it's
Is
not
it
been good.
correct? Is it correct that two other people, in addition to you, also went to the police complaining about abuse by him?
Yes, yes. So there
And what
was
happened?
there was a historical incident where he assaulted a pregnant woman, and they didn't do anything. They released him, and then on top of it, that was the time when he was actually illegal, and they didn't look into that. And the second one was child abuse that was reported, and again, they just didn't go anywhere with that case because they said the child should have reported it within 6 months. So that didn't go anywhere either. Now there is another one, but I can't speak any further of it. But there is another possibility of child abuse as well. But I'm just not allowed to speak of that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, technically, there's actually four of us. You know,
Okay.
three in particular that are saying that he abused us.
Okay. And they don't believe any of it.
No,
Okay.
no.
Now, I've seen some of the evidence in your case, by the way. I think I mentioned that at the top of the interview.
Yeah.
Can we, and I've seen some evidence of systemic abuse. Can we talk
Yeah.
now about social services and
Yes.
how they're involved in your case?
So they were always involved because my son is disabled. We were automatically involved with them. Um, but as soon as the split up happened, obviously I approached them for support. And then we started going down the route of the family courts, where he wanted access to have rights to see my son. Um, Now, in that time, also the stalking began and harassment as well. Um, to 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 that, oh, I don't know how to say this really. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that when I saw the work of what the social services did, their reports, they were biased and factually incorrect, literally. And they even broke the law in there. There were things they were saying in there that was actually against the law. So in my shock, I made a complaint to the manager and I said, this document is absolutely incorrect. It's not a true reflection of what went on. but I was told it was too late. It's already gone to court and it's too late, and I couldn't do anything about it. So unfortunately, I saw the horrors of the family court, where they were completely sided with the social services with their faulty reports. I was spoken to badly. I was shouted at, especially when they said the power of arrest. She shouted at me, and I felt discriminated against as well, because they were looking at how I was raising my son, and they were quite picky on things I was doing, which was natural stuff that I was doing
Things
for
like what? They were
them. Well, just I'm Indian myself. I follow more of an Ayurvedic approach, holistic approach, and I do a lot of things naturally. And they kind of almost laughed at my approach, that it wasn't it wasn't professional, if that makes sense.
okay.
But the magistrate, she was absolutely horrible to me. And yeah, they absolutely took his side, and he got his rights for contact. And I did make a complaint. Again, it went nowhere. Um, and then I also escalated the complaint about the false documents with evidence, and that went nowhere either. But there's more.
So, and I'm aware that things have progressively worsened and
Yes,
that it's even gotten to the point where they're threatening to remove your son from your care. Is that
yes,
correct?
that's correct. Well, this was I didn't expect any of this. I have been thrown off by the way they have behaved towards me now. And so, yes, they decided to do a second report um, against me for neglect. And it's almost like they built this up for quite some time. Um, I didn't know what they were doing. And as soon as I said that I was taking my ex back to court, because there were times where he's broken the order, then they slammed me with this report and started care proceedings.
Well, for the record, have you neglected your son in any way?
No, no. We've needed help all the way along. I did get some legal support, very low level, but legal support, trying to get the help that we are entitled to. And as soon as I started doing that, and I started trying to get some more help for me and my children, they just turned it right around.
Okay. And
So
you mean in-home care? Is that what you're focusing on when you, or
it
what
was
you mean?
a combination, because my son's behaviour deteriorated, which I believe is to do with a lot of trauma, which nobody unfortunately will look into. My son needs 2-to-1 support, and I can't do it all the time, and I can't travel with him. I couldn't get him into appointments, so I was falling behind with these things. Plus, on top of it, from the trauma that I experienced from the ex, I ended up with PTSD, and
Okay.
I had to face, what went on for myself. So we were extremely vulnerable, and this is when we needed the most amount of help from them. But instead, they just denied it. There were points when, the minimal support that we did have, they even stopped that at one point as well. So, like, all the way through in all these years, I've only given them minimal amount of support. They never gave anything above that until they were pushed, which is now. But now I'm faced with losing my son, just for their, you know, trying to get more help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now this is where the story gets extremely disturbing from my point of view. As I mentioned earlier, the BBC recently investigated some children's homes in the UK that are completely unregulated, even though children are living in these homes, or they're in the care of the state. They're completely unregulated, they're unregistered, they are not even inspected. And the BBC was investigating this situation because there are concerns that children in these homes are at high risk of abuse and pedophilia, and they have found links to organized crime. And because these homes can get government money to the tune of, I believe it's 800 to £1,000 a day, that, you know, there's an incentive to make it a business and not care about the children. And since it's all unregulated, it's very, very concerning. And one of the areas of concern in the BBC documentary is Bedfordshire,
Yes.
where you live with your son. So I certainly understand your fear. They literally, from what I have read and understood from speaking with you before, they're threatening removing him and putting him into state care. Is that correct?
Like, yes, absolutely. Like, when I saw the documentary myself, I was absolutely horrified. I mean, we hear of these stories, but this is my town. And even in the documentary, the social services didn't actually speak. Like, they didn't answer back to the questions the BBC were asking about what is going on. So for the possibility that my son could end up in care in these unregulated homes, and he's extremely vulnerable, um, that's why I'm here speaking. That is why I'm here today speaking, because I cannot stomach that my son ends up in these homes. But it gets worse because my son has extremely difficult, challenging behaviour. He could actually end up getting sectioned, and then what's next? He'll get drugged. He won't have any healthy life. Um, but for me, I see that they've allowed this to happen. Like, I told them from the beginning, the contact that he used to have with the ex it makes him worse, and it did.
Mm.
So, they won't take any accountability for that. So that is even more of a big concern, that not only would they take him, they could put him in these unregulated homes. I'm sure there's some that aren't, but whichever way, what control do I have? And then worse, he could get sectioned. Yeah.
Right. And I guess it's even more concerning because he is nonverbal, correct? He can't communicate verbally, even though he's 11 years old, he cannot speak.
Mhm. He cannot speak, and everything comes out in his behavior. But
Mm.
nobody is listening to me. Nobody. I've seen the shift in my son's behavior, and he mirrors a lot. So there's lots of things I've seen which I can't disclose right now, but my son is suffering, and he lashes out on me and my older son, and it's been going on for such a long time. He's already got separation anxiety on top of that.
Mm.
But again, they've not had the right specialists look at my son's situation, and look at the trauma he's going through. Nobody. They've literally just gone ahead and thrown everything at me, and said that it's all my fault, basically.
Okay. How are you feeling through all this?
Well, through the time, I mean, it's still going on. I just started to suffer from trauma again. I've had lack of sleep, nightmares, vomiting, loss of appetite, like just full blown trauma. It's like a repeat of the trauma I went through after what the ex had done. Um, but this is where it kind of comes together, that where systemic abuse is so dangerous is that I'm faced with the abuse from not only the police, the social services, but also education, because they've all come together against me. Called, it's mass misconduct, uh, discrimination, and defamation of character. So they've just literally slaughtered me, basically. And there's something the police did, if you don't mind me sharing, Anne.
No, please go ahead.
What the police had done is that they looked at my history. Now, I haven't got a criminal history. However, I have been a victim to abuse in my past,
Okay.
multiple types of abuse, and they told everybody, and they disclosed it without my permission.
Why would they do that?
Um,
What would possess them to do that?
well, from what I could gather, they've targeted me, that because I challenged them, they're going to make sure they're going to humiliate me, um, blame me, victim blame me, and shame me. So I will shut up, basically,
Oh,
to put me in a very low position. So I speak of it now. Now, the reason why paedophilia is so sensitive to me is because that's what I went through in my childhood. I
okay.
was abused by a very powerful paedophile, and it took me years, but I finally went to Bedford Police. Case didn't go anywhere, but they've actually disclosed that case to everybody. So I'm here now disclosing it to you, and and because I've had enough. I've absolutely had enough. People have constantly shamed me about my past that I had no control over, and my exes have done it. They've done it. The police have done it. They've all shamed me. Social services have done it. So I'm here to say, okay, I'm a survivor of abuse from a powerful paedophile who abused many, many young girls and groomed them and tore their lives apart. I was the one person, I was the one person that reported him.
Mm,
So I'm not going to carry that shame anymore. So I speak of it now. Thank you.
good. Well, I guess what's disturbing in hearing that is that you have experienced abuse in your past. You experienced abuse in your recent past as well. And now you're continuing to be traumatized by the very system and the services that are supposed to help you. So
Yeah.
that breaks my heart. And in your opinion, what is the solution here? Not only just to help you in your situation and your son, but to help other families that are who are in your situation.
Well, I guess the first thing I will say is that the way I saw them do it, this whole abuse, the way they write the documents, that it was like it was effortlessly done. So I'm sitting there going, it's too easy for them to do that. I can't be the first, and I'm definitely not the last.
Mm.
And they're getting away with it. So that's what worries me, that we're not the only family that they've done this to. What worries me is that they so easily can remove a child from parents, loving parents, basically, whether they're single parents or couples. You know, they do it so easily, so smooth. Um, but you know what can be done? Well, first of all, they cannot do that anymore. They cannot do that anymore. You know, me as a parent and every other parent beside me, you know, parents that have had their children taken away, and that many of them have fought back, but they cannot do this anymore. This is bullying. You know, that's just minimizing what it is, but it's still bullying. They outnumber you. You
It's what
know,
abusers do, by the way, right?
sorry, sorry,
It's what abusers do. They bully,
exactly.
they exert power, control, they
Yes,
coerce. And
yes. I'm glad you've said that because that's how I've experienced it. They are abusers. They're doing exactly the same tricks. You know, they're
oh,
outnumbering me, they're gaslighting me, they're doing crazy making. So they're making me appear to be the crazy one for just telling the truth. They minimize the abuse, they lie so much, it's shocking. They fabricate things, they all click together, and it's like a gang of them together, you know, putting you down, and they threaten to take your child away, exactly what abusers do. They're no different to every other narcissist we know out there, from our narcissist exes to what they do together systemically. It's the same pattern, and what needs to be done is this needs to be stopped. That's the first thing. How it's going to be stopped, I don't quite know, but you know, something has to be done.
well, and I don't know if it's more education or if it's more oversight. My goal and my hope is that no more families are victimized in the same way that you've been victimized by the services and organizations that are supposed to help and support you and protect you. And I do hope that there is a legislator in the UK who hears this story, sees this video, and ASAP investigates your story, looks into the evidence that I've seen. I'm no legislator, but somebody who's in a powerful position such as that. My hope is that they will look into your case, help you personally, and then also immediately start on helping to make sure that no other families are victimized in this way. I do understand, by the way, I heard that the government has launched a review of children's social services. This was great news that I learned about today. Children's social services in England, including care homes and family support measures. I believe John McAllister is overseeing the review. And there was a quote, the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson was quoted as saying, the review will not shy away from exposing problems where they exist. And he went on to say the review has promised to prioritize the views of children with firsthand experience of the care system. Maybe you can get involved in this, Sunita, and is setting up
Yes.
an experts by experience advisory group to
Mhm.
ensure the voices of people who have been in care. So I am going to put it out there that I hope that we catch the attention, or your story catches the attention of a legislator, and that they can help. And perhaps more than anything, I hope and pray that your child gets the adequate help in all of his very challenging health needs, because after all, he is the most important
Yeah,
priority in this whole
yeah.
thing.
See, that's the thing. Like we've all gone through quite a lot, but my son's still in that um, abusive situation, and I can't do very much. Actually, literally can't do anything to protect him right now. And yeah, so I believe it's Josh McAllister, I think.
Yeah. Oh, is it what did I
Yeah,
say?
Josh. Yeah, sorry, you said John, sweetheart.
Oh, sorry.
But yes, I came across that, and it's Josh McAllister, and I'm desperate for him to look into our situation, because it's not just social services, it is systemic abuse on the worst case scenarios. And obviously my son is disabled, and I'm his voice, and no one's listening to me, and I'm his voice at the end of the day.
Mm.
um, I mean, there are organizations we're praying that would help us, especially with the police case. It's an organization called Karma Nirvana, but we do need funding. And we did set up a GoFundMe, and I'm looking now to set up a Facebook funding as well.
How
Because
can anyone stay and get in touch with you if they want to help donate financially to help? Where can they find you?
yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook anyway, so it's Snetha Badhan, Snetha, surname Badhan. I'm going to set up a few things where people could communicate. If anything, I actually want to hear from people as well. Now, they could either complete the form from Josh McAllister, but I do want to know a lot more about Bedford myself, because we need a super complaint. There's something wrong with my town. Like, this isn't a coincidence, and they are not, they're not supporting families. They are breaking the laws. Um, and obviously, speaking as an ethnic person, the years of abuse I've been through, BAM lives don't matter. That everyone's always going on about BAM lives, and I'm like, we don't matter.
Mm.
In fact, nobody matters. So, I know there's a lot of things that need looking into, but I'm definitely hoping to get some support for our situation, because we are absolutely desperate. And what I will add is that what I have spoke about today and disclosed today, I am at risk. I am at risk. Um, but I frankly don't care anymore. I'm tired. They can break the law, and they're gonna say what to me for speaking the truth. I'm sure they'll figure something out, but I am at risk, but I'm tired of it. I'm absolutely tired of it, and this is our last shot. But it's not just for us; it's for many, many families, because I'm not here just to try and protect my children and save my children. I'm here with other families too.
Okay. Well, stay strong. I know you to be a gracious woman and very intelligent and strong. So keep it up. We will do everything that we can to help you. You need financial support. You also need the government. And Josh McAllister, please, if you're listening, please look into this case and look at the evidence that I've seen. And I guess we will wrap up with that. So please stay strong, Sunita. I send you my love. You touch my heart, and your story touches my heart. So I'm not ashamed to say that.
Thank you, and,
And
and I'm open to speak up for all of us. All of us, that's the best we could do. Our silence empowers the abusers, and we must remember that, so we cannot remain in silence. And yeah, thank you. I want a real big thank you to you, Anne,
all
for
right, stay strong.
thank
All right.
you.
And we will check back with you to see in a short while, maybe in a month or so, to see if anything has transpired, so you can give us an update.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. Have a
All
good
right. Thank you,
one.
Sunita, for being with me today.